Tabitha Novotny,
All right, Tabitha, and how old are you?
51,
And what company are you working with?
AZPaC.
Okay, and so I have a couple of questions in regards to employee engagement. Okay,
Okay.
so the first one is, how would you define employee engagement?
Employee engagement, like
Mhm.
from my supervisors.
Like in an organization.
Connecting with the people around you, I guess.
Okay,
Making sure you know who to go to and like at the appropriate times and the hierarchy.
okay, and do you believe that employee engagement is high in your organization?
When we were at Devereaux, yes. When we went through Catholic Charities, there was a big disconnect.
Okay, all right. Why do you think that was?
Um, the leadership.
Leadership. Okay. Well, that actually plays into my next question here. What role does your organizational leaders play in increasing employee engagement?
Through Devereaux, we were always connected.
Mhm.
We always knew we were on the same page. I think Victoria did a great job at that. I think we as employees connected with each other all the time. And then when I went to Catholic Charities, there was a do your job, leave me alone, unless, it's an emergency kind of thing. Don't talk to me. Don't go above me, because that's insubordination. And yeah, nobody talked to each other.
Okay. That's so sad. That makes my heart sad.
It made
So,
me sad, which is why I'm not there.
yeah. Does your own employee engagement fluctuate when we were there?
My own? No, I was that one that was kind of got in your face. Like, hello, talk to me. Um, when I went to Catholic Charities, yeah, I didn't, it was a shutdown of I didn't engage anybody except my clients, my family, my supervisor when I needed to. Um, Otherwise, I did my job and went home.
What's your name? Okay.
Megan Wessington.
And Megan, how old are you?
I'm 31.
And what organization did you work with?
So I worked for Catholic Charities with AZPaC.
Okay. All right. And I want to know, how would you define employee engagement?
I would say that we were a very well-rounded team. My coworkers and we worked individually with families, but we were a team. There was definitely the camaraderie together. We were involved with each other to the extent of, helping figure out curriculum ideas and also just being a support system to one another, while maintaining, you know, the HIPAA parts of things. So not being specific, but helping each other out.
Okay,
you
well, how
know.
would you personally define employee engagement? What would you say the definition
um,
would be?
so employee engagement to me would be how much we work together and are engaged in our jobs, as it were. So how much are we actually going to do our jobs and put in the time and the effort to make our jobs work?
Absolutely. So do you believe that employee engagement, so you believe that it was pretty high at our organization then, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So what role do you think that the organizational leaders played in increasing employee engagement?
I would say that we had supervision with them on a weekly basis. And so I think that having knowing that you're going to be meeting with your supervisor and knowing that you're going to be talking about the families that you're working with and what you're doing with them, and having to be very open about what's going on with each of those families definitely kept us engaged with what we were doing. There, you couldn't really half-ass it. You kind of had to do your job.
Absolutely. So did you feel like your own employee engagement fluctuated at all?
It definitely fluctuated. I think when I had fewer clients, just because in order to do our job, you had to have clients.
Exactly.
And so when I had fewer and I had more, when I had fewer and I had more time, it was harder for me to stay engaged with the job.
What is your name?
My name is Tasha.
And Tasha, how old are you?
I'm 29.
And how and what organization are you working with?
AZPaC, Arizona's Partnership for Children.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions about employee engagement that I want to ask you in regards to AZPaC. Okay? So the first question I have for you is, how would you define employee engagement?
A company's ability to have their employees participate in a grander scale than just coming into the office.
Good, that's a really good definition. Do you believe employee engagement is high at your organization?
I believe that individuals try to make it high, but that the organization as a whole does not.
Okay, why do you think that they don't, the organization as a whole?
Because it's not coming from management. The employee engagement is coming from individual employees who are trying to create a better environment. And management is approving it, but they're not initiating it.
That leads me into the next question, actually, that you just answered. So what role do your organizational leaders play in increasing employee engagement?
Like I said, I believe they just approve things. They don't necessarily increase it themselves. The staff members come up with the ideas and plan for it, and then they get the approval for the time and the space.
Perfect. So does your own employee engagement fluctuate?
I would say yes. It just kind of depends on what is going on. I engage fine with my fellow teammates, but as an employee of a company, it's pretty isolated.
Letting me interview you. And what is your name?
I'm Melissa Enos.
And Melissa, how old are you?
I am 40 years old.
Okay, and what is your occupation?
Right now, I am a senior program manager for a Parents as Teachers program in Arizona.
Okay, and I was wondering, how would you define employee engagement?
Wow. Okay, just drop that on me. I think employee engagement is a lot more than just getting employees to do the job and show up and basically come to your meetings and do what you tell them to do. I think employee engagement really involves getting employees to buy into what you're doing and what the company's saying, and not only, but what you are trying to get out of them, both professionally and as far as their own professional development. Not only do you want to meet the that they have to meet to keep their job, but you also want them to grow and stretch, and getting them to really buy into that, even when it's hard, really what I want to do.
That is an amazing answer. Do you believe that employee engagement is high at your organization?
It comes and goes. Sometimes they're better than others. Right now, strange enough, I'm actually seeing a really high level of engagement. Times are hard. We're getting some really interesting, I guess, buy-in from our staff when they're being told to stay home and shelter in place and see your families virtually. We usually do home visiting and go into families' homes. We're seeing them virtually, and they are coming up with some of the most amazing, innovative ideas that I've ever seen with making sure that the job gets done and our families get served, rather than saying, well, sorry, I can't do my job as great as it is and I have an excuse. They're going above and beyond. So right now, I'd say it's as high as it's ever been in a while.
Why do you think that is?
Um, at first we did go days worth of a pretty low employee morale. I'd say last week, we're going through the whole coronavirus thing. And there was am I going to stay home? And what can I do? I can't see my families remotely. That won't work. I can't work remotely. That won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Know what you want from me, that kind of thing. And I think it was an appeal for me and from our other supervisors in the agency that really brought them back. What's the mission and what's their why? Why are they doing this in the first place? And in human services, working with parents, really showing them that this is the meaning of all of the trainings that they've been doing. This is why they go to trainings that talk about how child abuse and neglect and all of these risk factors that happens to families, why these risk factors happen during times of high stress, and why human service workers exist, why home visitors exist. And this is their time to shine. This is when they are truly needed as much as the healthcare workers and everyone else who is doing their part for coronavirus. This is where they can really have a hand and make a difference. And right after that, when they realized, hey, this is a lot more than, hey, I need to get my visits in, suddenly I think things really around. Staff really started to see not only the requirements of what they were told to do, but reasons why they were doing it.
Okay. So what role do you believe that organizational leaders play in increasing employee engagement?
I think it's a pretty big role, and an advanced role. It's a role where they do have to lay requirements. They do have to tell staff what is required and find a way to get staff to do it. But it's also a balanced out with allowing staff to be the professionals that they are. So instead of saying, this is how you're going to do everything, minute by minute and completely, for lack of a better word, micromanaging, stepping back a bit and letting staff in a little bit on their own, or a lot of it, depending on the situation. But the more you show them that you trust them and respect them for the professionals that they are.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
1 moment, okay? I'm sorry.
Not a problem.
The more that you really trust them as the professional, see that, and they say, you know what, okay, I'm going to show them what I can do, and you let's see clearly that this is an opportunity for them to really showcase what they can do. That's much more likely to get their buy-in than say, hey, well, you're working from home for a week, here's an hour by hour schedule of what I want you to be doing.
That is an amazing answer. So do you feel like your own employee engagement fluctuates at times?
It really does. It really does. And I think at least to a point, that's a normal cycle.
Mm-hmm.
That really is a normal cycle. We went through a time when it was years before we had any employee turnover at all. And we made a joke we had a leadership staff joke around our little group that we didn't know what the hiring process for the agency. We truly did not know what that was like. We're like, I don't know how to hire someone because I haven't done it in years, right? So when someone finally had to quit, we're calling HR saying, okay, so what am I supposed to do now? And it was awesome. And then, we had a period of large growth, and with large growth comes more turnover, and suddenly felt like pro hiring. It was really weird. But again, it came back down to allowing our staff to be the professionals and be these brilliant people that we hired. Mm-hmm. It came down to, why did I hire these people? I hired them for their abilities. And why can't I let them just shine and be who they're going to be? So we instituted this new, what we call a mentorship program in our agency, where, we hire, and the supervisor is ultimately responsible for making sure that the new hired person gets trainings and completes what they need to do. But they're with a mentor who takes on a much bigger role in taking them to their visits and looking over their work and really being very hands-on with that one person, one-on-one. And suddenly, I think our employees were very much on top of that. They saw this as their own growth opportunity. They saw this as an opportunity to really share their own experience and do this in a way that they could potentially put on a resume and help a new staff member out. And it really has made a big difference. And suddenly our staff are not only more engaged and really aware of, okay, what do I know and how much do I know and do I know it well enough to teach? But it causes our staff it also led to our staff being a lot closer to each other, because now it's not just the newbie, it's like, that's my person. I train that person. And the new person is very comfortable going to their mentor or other staff members, because they came in to a system where it's not, well, I have to go to my supervisor. I can and should get close to my coworkers and we all are going to get through this together, because that's the system. It's not just me and my supervisor, it's me and my coworkers.
AZPaC, which is an acronym for Arizona Partnership for Children, consisted of a partnership between Devereaux Advanced Behavioral Health and Catholic Charities. In May of 2019, this partnership was severed and employees were given the opportunity to either apply for a position at Catholic Charities, find another position within Devereaux, or part ways. Both Tabitha and Tasha worked for Devereaux and moved over to Catholic Charities. This gave them the advantage to see how each organization's leaders work to develop employee engagement. Megan was hired on as a parent educator for Catholic Charities from the beginning, and Melissa was a supervisor for Devereaux parent educators and moved over to Catholic Charities when the change happened as a lateral movement. As we learned from Shahid, employee engagement is one of the critical factors of an organization's achievement, as well as the thriving implementation of distinct effective changes. In the case of AZPaC, it can be assumed that there was a great employee engagement from the beginning in the form of working with one another, being sounding blocks for one another, and helping one another brainstorm and connect to the work being done. Ruck, Welch, and Manera noted that internal corporate communication is a key aspect to employee engagement because it promotes commitment to the organization, a sense of belonging to its awareness of change, and an understanding of how it will evolve. While the organizational leadership was great in the aspect of supervision and assisting with lesson planning, it was not there when the Devereaux employees needed it during the transition of staff and the overall parent education program. However, after interviewing Melissa, I realized that the supervisor staff understood that there was a greater need for leadership and learned from their previous mistakes. It was heartwarming to know that they had made a change for the greater good that implemented more hands-on tools to boost the employee engagement.